Okay, we are live. I'm having a few concerns over this connection we got here, but we will figure it out and we will be okay. I'm about to wait for everyone to file in here and get a little juice going here on the Twitter. Okay. Give me a little thumbnail. Give me something. This is the downfall of not having a producer to do this for you while you record, but it's all right, baby. It's all right. Okay. And then we'll go one more little deal on YouTube. 79 live now. Oh, and I think this is episode 80, actually. I think this is episode 80. So we will have to fix that at some point. Okay, we are good to go. Sorry to the audio listeners and anybody else. This is a one-man band program. Let's get it going. Yes, sir, baby. Welcome back. We got a lot to talk about today on the show, so let's throw in a lip pillow. Let's get our backs popped. Let's grab a beverage of your choice. Come on down, stay a while. Welcome back to In the Jar. We used to have a little rhyme at the beginning of this show. I didn't know how to open a podcast just naturally, so I had to come up with a little shtick. And my shtick when we started the show was, welcome to In the Jar, where a friendly face ain't far. Now come on, have you a seat. We're going to have a cigar. I used to smoke a cigar on this show. Really the main inspiration, and some of you might not like this, really the main inspiration for my show was from Cam Newton's podcast. And Cam Newton always smokes, sometimes he'll smoke a cigar on his podcast, and I thought that'd be a nice little prop. And then out came that little phrase that we used to open the show because of the cigar. And so I give some credit there for getting us going. We got a lot to talk about today. We got the Ravens Lions game last night, and we've got a lot to talk about with this game. As a in therapy speak, we would maybe say we've got a lot to unpack from this game. I speed ran this game just now. Like, I just watched the game for the first time. I was looking at the statistics. I was looking at what other people on other shows were saying. Didn't want to be a stat merchant, right? And don't want to just talk about it. We want to actually be about it. And the unfortunate ass thing about living in Arizona is that, and I talked about this, I think literally last week. The unfortunate thing about living in Arizona is that our time zone, and it's about to get a little better, time's about to change, and it'll get a little bit more manageable. But with these primetime games, I've got evening activities literally every night of the week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to jiu-jitsu from 5:30 to 6:30. And then Tuesday, Thursday, we've got our Pop Warner kids who have practice from 6 to 8. So with these Monday night and these Thursday night games, I literally cannot watch them live. I have to watch them on my own time. So I obviously wanted to come on today, talk about this Ravens-Lions game, but I'm sitting here, reading about it. I'm transcribing other people's shows, trying to figure out main talking points, stats, all this stuff. I was like, let's not be a fucking fraud here, okay? Let's actually be about it. Let's watch the game. And so I just speed ran it at 2x. And I turned the game on last night with about 2 or 3 minutes left when it was 38-24, and then Baltimore, I think, ended up going down, scoring a touchdown with Mark Andrews. That's what I saw. Okay, so based on that, if I had just watched that, I would have thought, oh, well, the Lions must have absolutely kicked their ass. I didn't really see it that way throughout the main course of the game. In fact, I thought it was a very even game through the first half, and obviously the big defining moment in the game was that Derrick Henry fumble. And so let's talk about that, because Derrick Henry's been fumbling a lot more than people are used to him fumbling. And he's fumbled in a couple of really big moments. So, what the hell is going on? Is there something lacking in Derrick Henry's physical performance this year? Is there something really what I've noticed with Derrick Henry was that he's got 2 little forearm sleeves on his arms, and they go for, I don't know why he wears them. There's got to be a reason for him wearing them, but he's got a sleeve. Derrick Henry's got a sleeve on either arm. It starts about here, and it goes down to about here. They're forearm sleeves. And somebody on another show mentioned these sleeves and how Derrick Henry might be fumbling because these sleeves get sweaty and the ball gets slippery. This wasn't something I would have thought about. Derrick Henry's got these sleeves on his arms. And so everyone's asking, what's wrong with Derrick Henry? Is it something mentally there? Is it something? It's these arm sleeves, these forearm sleeves. Who knows why the hell Derrick Henry wears these things? Because when these sleeves, they get, and I've worn them before. I've worn the exact type of sleeves that Derrick Henry wears before. But I was a defensive player. Okay, when your main job is to be a ball carrier and to protect the ball, you've got what we used to call, and maybe I can get with the camera, you've got 6 points of contact. Okay, you've got your fingertips, that's the first one. You've got your hand, that's the second one. You've got your forearm, that's the third one. You've got your bicep, that's the fifth one. And then you've got your mind, that's the sixth one. Okay, think how many parts of the arm that we just covered, other than the hand. That's 2 that aren't covered by the sleeve. You've got 3 that's covered by a sweaty sleeve. You've got 4 that's covered by a sweaty sleeve. And you've got 5 that's covered by that sweaty sleeve. And so you look at that rep from the game last night. I can't remember who it was for Detroit that came in and busted that ball out. But I guarantee you that those sleeves for Derrick Henry are going to come off, because that's got to be what is causing him to fumble. What caused him to fumble in that Bills game? What caused him to fumble in the game last night? And maybe as the weather gets colder, those sleeves on Derrick Henry's arm will become less of a factor because that sweat will dry quicker. But if you're John Harbaugh, you're definitely pulling Derrick Henry aside today at the facility, especially after watching the film. I'm sure John Harbaugh is noticing the same thing that we're noticing. If you're John Harbaugh, you got to pull Derrick Henry aside at the facility today and say, hey, look, man, I think you got to take those sleeves off. I think you've got to go bare arms. You've got to take those sleeves off, because that is 100% what is causing these Derrick Henry fumbles. It's not a mental issue. It's not any fundamental problems. Nothing's changed in Derrick Henry's game causing him to fumble more. It's those darn forearm sleeves that's causing Derrick Henry to fumble. And those forearm sleeves on Derrick Henry's arms might have just cost the Baltimore Ravens a win last night. Because like I said, when I turned the television on when I got home from jiu-jitsu and I turned on the Ravens game, and we got about 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, 38-24. I'm thinking, oh, this was an ass kicking. Wow, Baltimore must have been trashed tonight. And then I speed run the game right before we sit down for this episode, and I thought it was a very competitive football game that was defined by that Derrick Henry fumble. It was completely defined. Baltimore's offense was driving really well. I will say Baltimore's defense looks really bad, and the stats echo that. The Ravens are giving up 436 yards a game, and that's dead last in the league. Now, I will play devil's advocate. Jair Alexander was out. They had a defensive end. I can't remember his name. Maybe it was like Owe. That was out last night. And Bouquet, some African name, dude. They're giving up 436 a game, and I see a post on Twitter talking about Lamar Jackson's playing the best football of his career, but he's 1-2 because his defense can't get a stop or whatever. And I'm sitting here, and I can't remember who tweeted this shit this morning. But this motherfucker is straight up defending Lamar Jackson. And this motherfucker wasn't defending Joey B last year when he was in the exact same situation. Dead last defense in the league. Bad record through the first couple weeks of the season. Ain't nobody was coming to Joe Burrow's defense last year. I got the receipts. This goddamn media, and look, sometimes it's warranted, and I didn't mean to turn this into a Bengals conversation. It's goddamn warranted sometimes to dump on the Cincinnati Bengals organization. Me, of all people, know that. It's justified. But this media narrative, look, man, even down to, like, Mohamed Sanu finally retired from football last week or a couple days ago. And all these motherfuckers posting Mohamed Sanu, great career. What uniform you think they posted a picture of him wearing? Not stripes. Not stripes. Okay? So there's an inherent media bias against the Cincinnati Bengals for whatever reason. Is it deserved sometimes? Absolutely. Is it deserved all the time? No. And it's literally all the time. So this guy's tweeting about Lamar Jackson last night. Oh, poor baby, Lamar Jackson. He's 1-2, but he's playing great football because his defense can't bail him out. Who does that sound like? Anyway, I had a grievance with that. That really bugged me because, I can see the Ravens' offensive line being a bit to blame with Lamar Jackson getting sacked literally 7 times last night. But Aiden Hutchinson's a great player. You had Alex Anzalone with the long blonde hair in there making plays. I think Detroit's got a really good pass rush. I think Detroit has also done a tremendous job. Think about all the coordinators that Detroit's had to cycle through in the last 12 months. Okay, Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, is hired as the head coach of the New York Jets. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, hired as the head coach of the Chicago Bears. And apparently, I can't name them. I don't know where they went or what they did for Detroit last year. But apparently, 6 other assistant coaches got promotions elsewhere. So Dan Campbell, this offseason, was left with the task of hiring 8 new assistant coaches, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator included. And they look like they have not missed a beat. Dan Campbell, I think, did an interview recently where he was saying, I want this thing set up so that if I'm not here, nobody misses a beat. I shouldn't even be instrumental in the operation of this thing. And that, to me, is a true leadership mentality. I think you have leaders everywhere, whether it's coaches, whether it's business executives, whether it's, somebody running a pottery shop. Okay? There are some people that really have to feel needed for whatever reason, and they micromanage, and they feel like if I'm not needed, if I don't get that external validation, that that somehow weighs against my reputation or my value. And naturally, with those kind of leaders, I'm sure there's those kind of leaders in the NFL. I'm sure there's those kind of leaders in college football. There's definitely those kind of leaders in business because I worked for them. A guy like Dan Campbell coming out and saying, I want this thing to run smoothly if I have to be gone for however long. It's very interesting. And now that I think about it, to contradict myself, I'm thinking about a quote that Nick Saban said one time that kind of contradicts what I just said. And Nick Saban, he told his group one time in a video that I saw, if I miss a day, will anybody miss my ass? Nick Saban took that quote and is interpreting that as, hey, you're not creating value unless you miss a day and somebody misses you. But I think both can be true. Because if you're leading, if you're teaching people the right way, if you're giving somebody the confidence day to day to be able to step up when their number is called and do something maybe out of their pay grade, I think that's leadership too. Because there are going to be days where you're not 100% there. But anyways, Detroit with 265 yards rushing last night. Is there any rushing attack better than David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs? Is there any rushing attack better than the league? My answer is no. And with that, the thought I was having when I was watching this Lions-Ravens game was that these Detroit Lions are the polar opposite counter to my Cincinnati Bengals. These guys, these Detroit Lions, the way they play, the way their offensive line plays, the way their running backs hit the hole, is the exact opposite of how my Cincinnati Bengals play. The Detroit Lions are everything I want right now, the way they played last night. The Detroit Lions are everything I would want out of my home football team. Not to mention, let's throw a little salt in the wound here, that their right guard, Tate Ratledge, a rookie out of Georgia, was on the board, and a guy that the Bengals were supposed to be eyeing that they passed on. And I see this guy climbing, making beautiful blocks, sealing the gap for David Montgomery. And it's very clear that David Montgomery completely outplayed Derrick Henry last night. Derrick Henry had a fine game, but David Montgomery completely outplayed everybody on the field. That's why he's on the thumbnail for this episode. Watching these teams, it's nice to know that some fans, that some communities are happy with their football teams, and their football teams are physical, and they handle the fundamentals. They run the fucking ball, Because you look in Cincinnati with Chase Brown, who's got 47 carries for 93 yards. 47 carries for 93 yards through 3 games. And Zach Taylor's in the post-game presser saying, well, yeah, we know the run game's something that we really need to look at. You ain't think to look at it for the last 6 years? We had a special running back in Joe Mixon, let him go. DJ Reader, great defensive lineman, who was making a lot of plays in last night's game, former Bengal that they didn't pay. And no, I don't think the Ravens are overrated. I do not think the Ravens are overrated. I think that Derrick Henry's got to take those sleeves off of his arms because that's why he's fumbling. These sleeves on his forearms, they get sweaty, and it makes it easier for guys to poke the ball out. I do not think the Ravens are overrated. And like I said, after speed running this game, watching this game, it was much more competitive than I originally thought. The Ravens moved the ball great. I do think Lamar holds the ball a little long. I do think he feels like he's so gifted, and he is gifted. I feel like he has some false confidence sometimes of being able to get out and create a play because sometimes he can, but sometimes he can't. It's the NFL. So, no, I do not think the Ravens are overrated. That's just what I'm hearing from a lot of media talking heads this morning. Frankly, I'm trying to clickbait a little bit, get people in here, watch the show. I don't think the Ravens are overrated. Okay? But you have to look at this Ravens defense. I know Jair Alexander's out, but one man should not make or break an entire defense. I think they had a defensive end that was out, like I said. That's a big playmaker for them. But the cold, hard fact is 2 90-plus yard drives by Detroit last night. And I really think, too, that the loss of Patrick Queen to Pittsburgh was a big, big gut punch to this Baltimore defense. Patrick Queen is a special player in the core of that defense. And I don't really know the specifics of why Patrick Queen ended up leaving Baltimore. Probably was able to get paid more in Pittsburgh, and he deserves it. He's a great player out of LSU. That's really my analysis from that game. Like I said, it looked like Detroit slightly dominated time of possession. I think they had a 10-minute and change drive one series. Sixth of the game, man. A sixth of the game for one series. Time of possession is so important. Time of possession is so important because you're keeping your defense fresh, and you're it's a double-edged sword. You're keeping your defense fresh, and you're wearing down the opposing defense. That's all football is, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a news flash: all football is trying to break the will of the guy across from you. If you could put it as simply as you can. If I'm on a date with a lady and she asks me, hey, I know nothing about the sport of football. What is football? If you could give me one sentence, what is football? I would say football is trying to break the man, break the will. Let me start over here. We're on a live show. We can't edit this. Football is a game of breaking the guy's will across from you. I just had a mini stroke there. Football is a game of trying to break the will of the guy across from you. And I forget where I was there. Oh, time of possession. That's all that is. Time of possession. We're going to break you down. And we're going to rest our guys so that they can break you down even more on the other side of the football. That's why time of possession in football at any level is very important. You're wearing down the opposing defense, and you're simultaneously giving your defense time to rest so that they can wear the opposing offense down on the other side of the ball. I'd argue other than turnovers, time of possession might be one of the most important things in the game of football. And Detroit did a good job of dominating time of possession, to my knowledge, at least in the first half. Again, much more competitive game in the first half than I would have thought if I hadn't watched the game. Okay. So to wrap it up, Ravens offense looked fine. Gotta get those sleeves off Derrick Henry's arms. If another game occurs where Derrick Henry's got those sleeves on his arms, I'm just going to imagine John Harbaugh doesn't have any balls. And I know that's not the case. All right? I know that's not the case. John Harbaugh is definitely having a conversation with Derrick Henry today about getting those sleeves off of his arms, because that's the reason he's been fumbling. Gets sweaty, gets slippery. It's easy for guys to pop that ball out, especially when he's so tall and there's so much space to work with. He's not as compact, so he can't really maybe protect that ball in a compact manner like a smaller back might be able to. Maybe like a David Montgomery. But look, this Detroit team, I watching them week one against Green Bay. Yeah. Watching them week one against Green Bay, you just didn't know whether this was the same Detroit team or maybe we really thought that Green Bay was something special. I didn't really know how to feel. I watched the film from that game, and that week one game, Green Bay and Detroit. I didn't really know how to feel. I thought to myself, well, Green Bay, they got some good looks on defense, but is Detroit just dropping off? Like I said, Dan Campbell had to replace 8 assistant coaches this offseason. They were 15-2 last year. He had 8 guys on his staff, to my knowledge, get promotions. How do you manage that kind of turnover? That's a downside of success in football, is that you get incredible turnover in your coaching staff because everybody's getting promotion opportunities. So trouble in paradise, right? But Dan Campbell had to replace 8 assistant coaches. And so when Detroit came out against week one and frankly got absolutely flummoxed by Green Bay, my thought, probably with a lot of other people's thoughts, were, is this the same Detroit Lions? And I think they showed us that last night. This is the same Detroit Lions. And frankly, they might not have skipped a beat. I really liked how they got Jameson Williams involved early on a couple chunk shot plays. Seemed like he wasn't that much of a factor down the stretch in the game. They pivoted to the run game. As a Cincinnati Bengals fan, brother, I'm so jealous of Detroit Lions fans. I'm so jealous because they literally have everything that I wish we had. Grit, determination, fundamentals, a good run game, a strong offensive line. Again, right guard Tate Ratledge, he was on the board for Cincinnati, and they pass on him like the defunct organization that we are. So it'll be interesting to see. It's pro football, man. So, I'm learning more and more that betting on this stuff is probably a fool's errand because, I took a small bet on Detroit week one. And like I said, they looked like not the same organization, not the same team. And then that clouds your judgment going forward. And I don't think I would have ever, based on what I saw in week one, envisioned Detroit playing as well as they did last night. But it's the National Football League. You've got the best minds in the world as it pertains to this game planning, making adjustments, drawing up play calling schemes week in and week out. That's how a team like the Cleveland Browns can go into Lambeau and pull off an upset like they did. And mind you, I don't know if we really got to it yesterday. I know it was on my notepad, but Cleveland Browns, do they have a top 3 defense in the league? I would say yes. Yes. Okay. Coach Prime went on Jason Kelce and Travis's podcast, New Heights, I believe is what it's called, and defended his son Shedeur, as you would expect. Defended Shedeur Sanders after reports last week or the week before last came out that Shedeur was slated to be drafted by the Ravens, but declined because he didn't want to back up Lamar Jackson. And this is a very, very controversial topic in the football world right now, because there's camps of people that say, why the hell would you not want to learn from one of the best quarterbacks in the game? And then there's other camps of people that say, why would you want to sit behind a guy who's clearly going to be the franchise quarterback for the next 10-plus years? And so Coach Prime went on Jason Kelce's podcast and justified that, no, my son shouldn't be sitting behind a guy for 10 years. And I think he even said, word for word, tell me a game that a guy was a part of where he was the backup and said, yeah, I learned something today. Thing about it is, man. Thing about it is, you can learn something as a backup. I don't think what Coach Prime said on Jason Kelce's podcast was completely true. I understand the premise of what he's saying. He's saying that you can get a lot more XP. You can learn a lot more when you're in the game and you're playing. That is true. But I think what Coach Prime implied on the podcast was that if you're not starting, you're not learning anything at all. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. It just makes you think. Like, you look at this Colorado program. We talked about them last week. Transfer portal. Apparently, Colorado Buffaloes and Coach Prime, they do not recruit high school kids. They just take transfer portal kids. I don't believe that program is going to have success long term. And I don't think in a million years Deion Sanders would be fired. But I don't think that Colorado program is going to have any type of success because of that mentality. You got a son who is in a position to potentially learn from one of the best quarterbacks in the game. And as a fifth-round pick, you say, nah, I'm good. You're a fifth-rounder. Look, I never got drafted. I should tread lightly because I've never been there. I've never done that. I'm not in his position. I don't come from that family. But objectively, right, you're a fifth-rounder. And you're telling organizations like the Baltimore Ravens, no? You're turning down the chance to back up one of the best quarterbacks in the game? You really think that in 10 years you're not going to get your shot? You really think that the stuff you learned from Lamar wouldn't be more valuable than just getting thrown to the wolves and not playing as well as you could? Think about all the practice film that you could rack up. Think about all the things that someone like Lamar could teach you that you could use in practice, rack up that practice film, and then a good organization like the Ravens might say, hey, look, we obviously got our guy. You've been balling in practice the last couple of years. We're going to trade you somewhere where you get a chance to play and start. And we hope that your time here has been beneficial learning under someone like Lamar. You're telling me as somebody in Coach Prime's position is going to go on Jason Kelce's podcast and justify his fifth round. And again, I've never been a pro. I don't want to seem like I'm being a hater. or whatever. Like, I've never been there. I've never done that. So I really need to pick my words tactfully. But you're telling me as a 5th-round pick that you're going to tell an organization like the Baltimore Ravens no, and then the Cleveland Browns draft you, and you're still a backup. It doesn't make sense. And it's look, I hate to say it, but Coach Prime's mentality in justifying that is exactly why the product his team has put out on the field thus far has not been good this season. And it's exactly why a lot of these kids in college football today have the wrong attitude. It's all gimme, 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 and they're not given anything. Give me this, give me this, give me this. Okay, I'll give you that stuff. What are you going to do for us? What are you going to do for our program? Well, we'll see. The fuck you mean? The sport of football, it's in a lot of danger because of the attitude of this college game right now. You can't put decisions like kids are making in the hands of these kids at this age. I've said it on the show 100 times. I'm perfectly okay with college kids getting paid. I'm perfectly okay with it. I'm not okay with the transfer portal shit. Because now you got coaches like Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame that are more worried about looking like a model on the sideline than actually coaching these kids hard. These coaches these days, man, have gone soft because they have to. They have to. These coaches are absolutely, these coaches, these ADs, these university presidents, they're all petrified because the state of their programs, their brands, are all on these 18-year-old kids, 19-year-old kids, 20-year-old kids, 21-year-old kids. There's too much power in the hands of the kids. I know what kind of dumbass I was as an 18-year-old. I was never this level of player. I was never even close to this level of player that some of these kids are in college football. But I know if you put 5 stars next to my name and sent me to LSU and said you're going to make $3 million this year at 18 because you literally shit ice cream, I'd be an insufferable kid. I'd make terrible decisions. Okay? And again, I'm all for these kids getting paid. What I just said probably sounds like I have a problem with kids getting paid. I don't have a problem with kids getting paid, but I have a problem with kids transferring every time their coach jumps their ass. Okay? When I was in school and my coach would kick me out of a linebacker meeting for a silent but deadly fart, you think my first thought was, oh, I'm just going to transfer? No, because A, I wasn't good enough, but B, I couldn't because you got to sit out a year. We have to put these transfer portal rules back the way they were before COVID. The only reason they changed them was because of COVID. And I don't think you see a scenario, again, the Sanders family is an anomaly. The Sanders family, they are 1 in 10 billion. Okay? But even when you factor that in, I don't think you see a 5th-round quarterback like Shedeur Sanders saying no to the Baltimore Ravens in the NFL draft. In the former era of college football. It starts with college, and the dead-ass reality of all of this is if we don't take initiative about this transfer portal stuff in college football, in a couple years, and it might already be, in a couple years, you're going to start seeing the quality of pro football affected by these mentally soft-ass kids. Again, I posted a clip about this on TikTok last week, and I got a bunch of comments from people defending this mentality in college football. It's unbelievable. I got comments from people defending this attitude in college football. And their argument was, they were saying, "Well, you're saying this on a podcast that nobody listens to in your basement when you probably couldn't even go D3." And I'm sitting here thinking, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. It doesn't matter what level I played at. I played at a D1 school, by the way. I played with, 6 or 7 guys at any given time that ended up in the NFL. That's aside from the point. I spent a year in an NFL front office. Sorry, my default there is to spit out my resume when my credibility in football gets attacked. But we have people online defending this attitude in college football right now. And it's going to take a lot of work to change the transfer portal stuff. It's going to take good apples that represent the game well, like Cam Scadaboo. You guys see clips of Cam Scadaboo the first couple of weeks of this season. The guy's freaking awesome. That's a good one. That's a good apple right there from the new generation of college football. Cam Scadaboo. Jaxson Dart, another good apple in my opinion. And he just got the starting job with the New York Giants today. Got the alert on my phone. They're finally going with Jaxson Dart, and I think we all saw this coming. Kid's a stud. You see videos from his pre-draft interviews with the Giants, and Brian Dable sitting in the back just like hammering them, saying turning them around from the whiteboard, and then they'll draw something up on the whiteboard and they turn him around really fast and he's got to call it out in half a second. I mean, these NFL pre-draft interviews just seem like straight pressure cookers, and I'm sure it's even crazier off camera. The stuff I saw, the videos I saw, they were pretty crazy. I can't imagine what they're asking him off camera. They ask him about how much puss he gets and all this stuff, what he would do. Those pre-draft interviews in the NFL are crazy. But Jaxson Dart killed his pre-draft interview with the Giants. Seems like a sharp kid. Good looking. Probably gets some good puss. You know what I mean? So he's got that confidence. I think it's important for your quarterback to be able to it's important for your quarterback to be able to smack good puss. You know what I mean? Sorry for cussing. It's important for your quarterback to be a charismatic guy. Let's just say that. And Jaxson Dart, look, I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a lady. I don't have a spouse. But I wouldn't feel good about leaving my hypothetical woman in a room with Jaxson Dart. And I think that's what you want in a quarterback. You know what I mean? Guy that's got charisma, guy that's been there before, done that before. You know, a guy that's a little dangerous, a danger risk, right? He's a little dangerous. He's not afraid to take risks. But they're calculated, smart risks. You know, Jaxson Dart, he's a stud. That's why I put him on the thumbnail. And he got the starting job with the New York Giants today. And I think we all expected that. Russell Wilson, he's on the back nine of his pro career. Maybe the back 2 or 3 holes of golf, if we're going to be completely frank. And Jaxson Dart is, I think, hopefully going to be a great player. Now, we've had conversations the last couple days about Daniel Jones and his success in Indianapolis, and whether his success has come because of Shane Steichen and the Colts organization, or whether he's always had this in him, and the Giants organization was just suppressing him and his talents, maybe. So I think that discussion we had yesterday is going to be answered and rectified this season, the remainder of this season, as we get to see Jaxson Dart be the starting guy in New York going forward. I think we're going to see, and it might even still be tough to call whether it was the Giants or whether it's Shane Steichen and the Colts, because when you throw a rookie in the fire like that, in any organization in the league, it seems like there are a couple organizations that do it often. Chicago, New York Giants, right? You get a young guy. Sometimes it doesn't matter how talented he is. Doesn't work out. There are a lot of factors there. But sometimes a really special player surfaces, and he's able to cut out the noise. He's able to do his job and then some, and bring what's typically a pretty bad organization above what they could be without him. I think we saw that with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow's first year in Cincinnati was not pretty. Granted, he got hurt because they can't protect him. 6 years later, we're in the same fucking boat. It takes a special guy like Burrow, who's like literally a mental psychopath, to elevate a bad organization. I'm not saying, I think that part of it is very mental. I think that part of it, right, going to a bad organization and elevating it, I don't think there's a lot there that your physical talents can do for you. I think you have to have a certain level of mental fortitude, literally like serial killer, psychopathic blood pressure. And Joe Burrow is that. So maybe Jaxson Dart is that too. And we'll see. If Jaxson Dart is that, we're going to be very murky on whether Daniel Jones' lack of success in New York was because of New York or because of the new group he's with in Indy. So Jaxson Dart wins a starting job there. And I forgot to mention this earlier in the show when I was ranting about college football. We might already be seeing the effects of this new era of college football trickling into professional football. And I want to share this statistic with you guys. In the NFL today, this season so far, offenses are averaging 301 yards per game total. That is the lowest in 50 years. So as a whole, offenses in the NFL statistically are the worst they've been in 50 years through 3 weeks. We have to be vigilant about this. And I don't know, right, like, maybe, I know this podcast is going to blow up here in the next couple of years, so maybe we'll have some power to speak out against this me mentality in this new generation, this TikTok dancing in the locker room after a loss generation, this painting your nails or doing NIL deals with nail techs, or bringing anxiety dolls to a game, getting off the bus with a fucking anxiety doll when you're supposed to be intimidating. Okay? Maybe we'll have some power in the coming years to speak out against that and bring awareness to that so that it doesn't continue. But if it does continue, I mightily worry. I really worry that this isn't going to bleed into the quality of the professional game, this attitude of this new generation in college football. I really worry about it. All we can do is talk about it, bring awareness to it. CJ Gardner Johnson was cut from the Houston Texans this morning. And I think this is how we're going to end the show. CJ Gardner Johnson was cut a formerly great player from the Detroit Lions, from the Philadelphia Eagles. He was cut from the Houston Texans this morning. The Houston Texans have lost their first 3 games by 7 points or less. And it was rumored that CJ Gardner Johnson was responsible for touchdown plays in each of these 3 games. Like I said, the Texans lost by less than 7 points in each of those games. And CJ Gardner Johnson found himself responsible for allowing touchdowns, being the sole reason that touchdowns were scored in all 3 of those games. And I imagine that's why he was cut. If you go a little deeper, why was he allowing these touchdowns in each of these games, right? He plays safety, corner, pretty important positions where if you're not prepared, if you don't know what you're doing, you get exposed in front of God and everybody. I was always very glad that I didn't have the skin color nor the athleticism to be playing corner or safety, because I always thought about if you mess up one time at corner or safety, that can change whether you win or lose in a football game for your team, not just yourself. And it looks like CJ Gardner Johnson experienced that 3 games in a row and finds himself without a job. Furthermore, there was rumors in the Texans locker room that CJ did not take accountability for any of his screw-ups, that he pointed fingers within the locker room at other players, and now he finds himself without a job. I imagine that they at least would have sat him down and gave him a chance if he took some accountability. Apparently, the guy just didn't know the playbook. Apparently, the guy just didn't. He got out there, and he just didn't know what to do. I've been there before. It's not a good feeling. But when you point fingers in a locker room on a team sport where it's very important to take accountability, sometimes you just find yourself on the couch. And the thing that's tough and sad about it is that I know what kind of physical talent CJ Gardner Johnson still possesses. He's a loud personality. When things are going well, he's a great guy to have on your team. He's a shit talker. He gets the other team riled up, pissed off. When things are going well, he's a guy you want on your team. But it seems like when things are going bad, he might not be the guy you want on your team. And the Houston Texans made that statement today. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him play football again this year. I also wouldn't be surprised if some defunct organization took him on. A couple weeks ago, if you told me CJ Gardner Johnson was a free agent, I would have said Cincinnati Bengals, grab him. You know, if you think of the personality and the mentality, for better or for worse, kind of fits Cincinnati. But our safeties have played pretty well. Jordan Battle for the Cincinnati Bengals has been a bright spot with the way he's played through 3 weeks. He's got 2 interceptions. I think he's tied for the league. And he leads the team in tackles. And I said he was ass to before the season started. I've had some freezing cold takes on this show the last couple weeks. I am very grateful. I shouldn't speak too soon. Maybe it would blow the show up. I have I have a big fear. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that Twitter account, and I hope I'm not speaking it into existence here, but it would help the show, unironically. There's a Twitter account called Freezing Cold Takes, and they take something that was just completely wrong, and then after the fact they post it. I said some things about Jake Browning and the Bengals last week that I'm not proud of, in terms of how my football knowledge may be perceived going forward. But I'm going to stand on business. I'm not going to delete any of it. Cincinnati Bengals season's over, and if you go to my TikTok, you can find some clips of me talking about how Jake Browning's going to lead them to the Super Bowl. I had some bad takes. And I said Jordan Battle was ass before the season, and he's leading the Bengals in tackles, and he's tied for the league lead in interceptions with 2 so far through 3 weeks. Hot Wang brother, come down to the channel and rewind it, replay it from the start. We got some good juice this episode, but we are coming to a close. We're getting ready to hop on Madden. I'm trying to figure out a team to play with in Madden because I'm going to try to do my part for the betterment of the city of Cincinnati, and I'm going to support the team from afar, but I don't think you're going to see me donning stripes very much. You're definitely not going to see me buying gear. You're definitely not going to see me buying tickets or going to games, because this ownership group is cancer, and they don't care about the people of Cincinnati. They only care about lining their own pockets. They don't care about winning. Somebody had a really great idea in my comments on TikTok. They said that I should start a GoFundMe to fly a banner over the stadium during a game that says, "Sell the team." I wonder how many people I could rally behind that cause. Sure, you could get some people to chip in. But you do have scumbags out there that are dishonest and would take all that money and just shove it in their own pocket. I care more about the city of Cincinnati than that. I would actually fly the banner over the stadium. Could you imagine? I mean, I guarantee you the Bengals probably won't have many primetime games this year. I bet the primetime games they do have are going to get flexed. I guess we got a Thursday night game against Pittsburgh. Can you imagine, though? You get the funds. People donate the money on GoFundMe. They trust the cause. They're just as fed up as I am. You fly that thing over the stadium on a primetime game. God, even if nothing happened as a result of that, the satisfaction I would get from knowing that ownership heard that message, it would be worth it for sure. Maybe I should do it. It'd be even sicker if, like, the show blows up, or when it blows up, that they know it's me. Probably wouldn't be allowed at any Bengals games ever. It's fine, because with this ownership group, we're probably never going to win a championship. So, and I saw a lot of people on Twitter in the last couple of days wondering whether Week 2 is going to be the last time we ever see Joe Burrow in a Bengals uniform. If you're him, like, what do you say? You say, I need to get the fuck out. This place is cursed. These people are narcissists. Narcissistic narcissistic nepotism. Okay? Family business. There's people in power with the Cincinnati Bengals that don't need to be there. All right. That's the show today, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just popping in, I would hang around on the channel. if you can't rewind the stream, if you can rewind the stream, I would recommend just doing that, just popping in to get your daily dose of football updates today. We talked about the Ravens-Lions game last night. We talked about Jaxson Dart getting the starting job with the New York Giants, and we talked about CJ Gardner Johnson getting cut from the Houston Texans. We ranted a little bit about Shedeur Sanders and how he declined the Ravens in the draft. We talked about the state of college football, and we sprinkled some Bengals rants when necessary. So if you can't, I don't know how the live streams work. I think it's vertical, so maybe you can't rewind it. But if you can, just rewind it. And if you can't rewind it, just go to the channel, subscribe, by the way, double tap the screen, go to the channel, excuse me, and there should be a replay shortly available. We'll also have this up on Spotify and all audio platforms in the next couple minutes. So hope you guys enjoyed. This was, I believe I got the episode number wrong. I think this was episode 80 of In the Jar. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm not quite sure what we're gonna cover tomorrow yet. We might pick a game to analyze, or we might pick a game to preview. We might not talk about football at all tomorrow. I've been thinking about bringing up some other things on the show too here. So you never know. Stay on your toes. But nonetheless, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please do so. If it impinges you, you're going to see us again. And I imagine if you're in here, you like football. And if you like football, you're going to love our show and our channel. We'll get ready to hop on a Madden stream, so hang tight for that if you got the time. And if you're already subbed, just know I love you, and you're in at the ground floor, something really special. So holler at the boy. We'll see you on Madden. If we don't see you on Madden, we'll see you tomorrow. All right now, ladies and gentlemen, or probably pretty much all gentlemen in here, I would imagine. All right.